Hey everybody, John TheMorgile here, checking in for. We're going to do section 12 of Confusion in the Cosmos. I tried to knock out 11 and 12 in one go on last video, and it just didn't work out for all the yip yapping and everything. But that problem is now solved for the time being. So we're going to pick up on part 12 where we left off. We'll just start at the beginning of the chapter on section 12. And just so you know, once I get all of these down recorded, doing them as a live stream is much easier and faster. Once I get it all recorded, I'm planning to go back in and clean them up with YouTube's in-house editor and see how that goes. I've used it before. It's a little bit tedious, but we'll try it. And that way, once the whole thing's recorded, we'll have it as like as a contiguous playthrough or whatever. So we'll just kind of kill some time until I see anybody pop in. Looks like we've got one person popped in just there. If you could throw a thumbs up my way, if you can hear me loud and clear and everything, I would appreciate it. And then I'll get started with part 12 of Confusion in the Cosmos by Miguel Stephano. Hey, Mr. Mike Jones. So I see you in the chat, but you're not showing up as a live viewer. Awesome. Great deal. Thanks, Mike Jones. Okay, so part 12, the cosmos is a clock. So quoting from Enoch, "And now, my son, I have shown thee everything, and the law of all the stars of the heaven is completed. And he showed me all the laws of these for every day, and for every season of bearing rule, and for every year, and for its going forth, and for the order prescribed to it every month and every week." Again, Enoch 79:1. And this is Enoch 80. "And in those days the angel Uriel answered and said to me, Behold, I have shown thee everything, Enoch, and I have revealed everything to thee, that thou shouldst see this sun and this moon, and the leaders of the heaven, and all those who turn them, their tasks and times and departures." And then finally, Enoch 82, "And he has the power over night and day in the heaven to cause the light and give light to men, sun, moon, and stars, and all the powers of the heaven which revolve in their circular chariots." Right. So that's Enoch 82 and 8. So this author is really hoping that you have picked up on this by now, but the entire cosmos above our heads was created and designed to be our natural 24-hour clock. Let's take a walk through this as you pursue these maps as we go, while we consider how the cosmos above us functions as a whole. First, let's discuss the geography of what lies beneath the cosmos and broach the subject of maps for a brief moment. I want to preface this part by stating that every map that you have ever seen was intended to hide this truth from you. Every map you've been shown also had distortions of country shapes and relative sizes. Some maps actually exaggerate the sizes of developed countries while diminishing the size of less developed nations. For an example of this, let's refer to the Mercator projection. This is the map that taught you geography in grade school. The one your teacher would always have trouble pulling down and raising. That was like a big retracting window shade in front of the chalkboard. This Mercator map displays Greenland as the same size as Africa, and Alaska being bigger than Brazil. But Alaska, in reality, is about a fifth the size of Brazil, and Greenland is realistically about 1/14 the size of Africa. Without comparing all the other problems with this curriculum-approved map, would you agree that these two examples are enough to get that point? Agreed. So, reader says, "So, Miguel, are you saying that we were taught by false maps in school that show countries in some cases distorted by up to 14 times their actual size?" Author, "Yes." Reader, awkward silence. Author, "That's correct, and I do appreciate that question for clarification." It is this author's opinion that cartographers have had a very challenging job through the years trying to take something that's flat and circular in reality, project it around a sphere, and then project that spherical image onto something that ends up being linear, rectangular, and flat again, not resembling the Earth as it sits at all. If this sounds confusing, that's because it is. I believe it is all an effort to confuse us about our realm in order to conceal the actual layout and prevent us from figuring out the truth. All the maps we have been shown are distorted to some degree, and their defense for this is because they are applying a map of a three-dimensional sphere onto a two-dimensional flat image, and they can't make it perfect unless it's printed onto a globe. But these are not accurate either. There are dozens of different map layouts that distort or project countries every which way from Sunday, but in my opinion, the most accurate of them is the one that the United Nations uses as their emblem. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. That would be the AE map, right? Okay. That map is also used by the USGS, or the United States Geological Survey. The Gleason's map, or azimuthal equidistant AE map, is found there. This map is probably not perfect either due to some distortion with Australia, but as far as conceptually, it is by far the best map that we have available at this time. Here's that one. Right. You'll notice within this chapter, there are many older maps that have been found in recent years that all show this same layout. Some were specifically used for flight routes, steamship routes, general knowledge of layout, and even understanding the sun. They all show a North Pole center and an Antarctic ice circle around the perimeter, with level oceans in between. By looking at this, you can see how the globe was derived by basically taking this map, spreading it out, and wrapping it around a globe. The dates that are displayed on these maps put them between 1876 to 1945. Keep the year of 1945 in mind, because you'll see later in the Roots of Deception chapter why that date may be of more significance. Let's start our walkthrough of how this timepiece works, and as you need, check back to the first AE map that we've inserted for you in the beginning of this part. But first, let's read through the fourth day account of creation to reference our luminaries being made. And I guess I'll just go ahead and show this male steamship routes map. And again, that's MAIL, not like the map doesn't have a sex. It's the male steam routes map right there. Right, okay. All right, so we're going to be quoting Genesis 1:14 here. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth." And it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made also the stars. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. And that was Genesis 1:14 through 19. So the sun, the greater light that rules the day, is like the hour hand of our cosmos, but much more complex regarding its operation. I will say that it is much more impressive in its workings than how science falsely explains it. The very center of the Earth is the magnetic North Pole, and directly aligned in the sky above the North Pole is the North Star, Polaris, being the center point of the heavens. The outer ring of the Earth is an Antarctic ice wall perimeter, making south the whole perimeter opposite from the northern center. Instead of south being designated as a single location having a south pole, it is a complete outer ice ring acting as the bounds for the seas. Circumnavigation takes place using a compass held flat for referencing magnetic north as your guide and moving in an eastward or westward circle around the world. All of the luminaries in the sky rotate in a clockwise direction over our heads in perfect synchronicity, changing through the year, giving us our time of day, monthly intervals, and annual seasons. I want to briefly pause here and make a quick globe comparison. On the globe model, let's assume we are standing at the equator. Everything below this equator is south, and if you keep going south, you'll always land in Antarctica. Everything above the equator on a globe is north, and away from any location, if you continue north, you will end up at the North Pole. This works the same way on the circular AE map, only leveled out as it is in reality, being flat. On the AE map, if you travel north from the equator, you will eventually end up at the North Pole. Anywhere you are placed at the equator ring heading south, you will always find Antarctica. Are you starting to see this? If not, you will soon. Let's continue with the sun's circuits. And I'll just go ahead and show this, the flat Earth map real world here from page 203. There we go. Right now. Okay. Okay, so the equator is the circular line on this AE map halfway between the North Pole and Antarctica. The sun orbits on this circuit above the equator most often during the equinox. The Tropic of Cancer is the ring closer to the center between the North Pole and the equator. The sun orbits down this circuit above the Tropic of Cancer during the summer solstice when it is summer in the northern regions. The ring between the equator and the outer Antarctic ring is the Tropic of Capricorn. The sun orbits down this circuit above the Tropic of Capricorn during the winter solstice when it's winter in the north and summer in the south. So hopefully you're seeing these rings from the map and imagining this. And again, that was that flat Earth map, real world map. Okay, so we can observe these movements and confirm them in reality by paying attention to the sun's movements through the seasons. If you live in the north during the longest and hottest days of summer, you can observe the sun moving directly above your head. If you live in the north during the winter, you'll see the sun is much further in the south, causing shorter and colder days for the northern regions, and then summer for the southern regions over which it is directly moving. This is why we experience temperature changes throughout the seasons, because the sun orbits in a westward rotation, always moving from the east to the west around the North Pole, but moves further south and back to the north again throughout its annual solar cycle. I also believe it's not likely that the sun moves in an exact circle in reality, but more of an elliptical circular revolution. The reason we have longer days during the summer in the northern regions is because the sun is traveling slower in a smaller circuit. This is also why the days are shorter in the winter, because the sun is further away and moving faster around a larger circuit by having more ground to cover in a 24-hour period. Throughout the year, the sun is constantly moving in both orbit pattern and changing speed to make adjustments for a full rotation in 24 hours. This is one of the things that is so miraculous and spectacular about the sun's travel. Okay, the equator receives most of the heat due to being in the center of these northern and southern circuits, therefore never receiving harsh winters like the regions further away from the north and south. This is the real reason why both the North Pole and the outer Antarctic ice ring have the most extreme cold climates of anywhere else on the Earth, because the sun only gets close to these areas for a short time and doesn't ever orbit directly above these zones. The whole explanation of the tilting of the globe Earth concealing these frozen areas never did make much sense, did it? And I was just comment, yeah, you would expect the poles in the ball Earth model to be like boiling during their respective summers because they would be equivalent to the equator, right? They would be super hot, but no. Anyway, so these map images are small and hard to decipher on the scale of this book size, but the latitude rings move from east to west in a circle. The longitude lines move straight from the North Pole out to the south perimeter, marking longitudinal locations, but also represent 1 hour of sun movement in its travels. This is one of the most amazing things about this map. You're able to tell the time with it. The sun's movements are testable and observable, and our time zones also follow this to a T. The AE map was designated to calculate time in other parts of the world from whatever position you're at, very simply by moving 2 attached rulers around it, or clock hands. The single copy of this map that was found only had a partial singular ruler. By looking at this, you can see why the sun is dark in Chicago while it's daytime in Tokyo. The understanding of this, coupled with knowing there is a much smaller and localized sun, better explains how the time zones actually work. If you're not picturing this, this author will have video links at the end and a phone app to download that will bring this home for you. These movements of the sun were understood by the ancients and allowed them to tell the time of day by viewing its placement in the sky. They took this further by the invention of the sundial, which proves yet again the constant reliability and exact nature of the sun's precision movements. This is not an enormous, distant fireball millions of miles away, a fireball of angry nuclear fusion in outer space, but a light about the same size as the moon that provides life-giving daylight, heat, energy, and even the concept of time. We got another map here, page 205, showing, I guess, the concept of the circuit of the sun and moon. I know that's kind of hard to see, but there we have it. Okay, now on to the moon. The lesser light of the moon rules the night, and its lunar phase cycle is completed every 29.5 days, giving us a monthly calendar in the form of a mysterious and very often misunderstood evening luminary. The monthly timepiece, or the moon, orbits the Earth in the same way as the sun. It follows down its circuit in the same way, only at a slower speed. A new moon is when the moon cannot be observed because it's not providing any of its own light. And I'll just interject real quick. I do have some disagreements potentially with the author on this, but again, I'm just reading this here. So the moon is not providing any of its own light during the no moon phase. This is the phase that starts its monthly cycle and cannot be viewed in the sky while also having noticeably darker evenings. In a very small sliver of thin crescent is a visible on its west side leading edge while coming out of the new moon stage. After a new moon, as the days go by, the moon's light will illuminate the right or west side into a crescent. As the moon continues to illuminate, this is known as its waxing crescent phase, meaning its light is increasing each day. The first quarter after the new moon, you'll see the moon at a waxing of exactly 50% of illumination on the west side, when the moon will be viewed to be cut in half. In the days following, it will be known as the waxing gibbous phase, while each day its cooling light grows further until reaching its full moon phase. The full moon is when it's 100% waxed or illuminated fully, and the night sky is at its brightest. This phase follows by entering the waning phase by darkening or decreasing its light from west or right edge, known as its waning gibbous. The next phase is its last quarter phase, when the moon is again illuminated exactly 50%, but different than the first quarter phase, this time illuminated on its east side half or its left side. From there, it continues to wane by slowly turning off its light through its final waning crescent phase until it's out of light and starts back at its blank new moon stage all over again, back to the beginning. Hey, Frank. All these descriptions are as the moon is viewed from the northern regions. And if you're on the other side of the equator in the south, everything may appear opposite because you're viewing it from a different viewing perspective. Another interesting component of the moon is that it tilts toward its left side and back towards its right side throughout its phases, never coming close to making a full rotation in either direction. I think this is where they came up with the idea of the globe Earth tilting initially by watching the moon's movements. The more you watch the moon, the more it will make sense. It took this author over a full year to understand this mysterious luminary, but with help of the app that we'll share with you, you'll have the ability to understand it in a fraction of that time. The more you observe this monthly timepiece, the more you'll understand that it definitely provides its own light, having nothing to do with the sun's rays, and by viewing it during the day with its blue sky backdrop, it will be revealed that it is not a solid object that can be landed on. And again, I would just reserve the potentiality that the moon's light may be reflected sunlight. I haven't seen substantial evidence either way. It may be self-luminous, but again, to me, that's not really relevant to whether or not the Earth is flat, but again, just throwing that out there. Okay, now on to the stars. The stars in the firmament are actually a giant rotating timepiece that comes back into position annually, giving us the ability to track our years. As mentioned earlier, the North Star is placed at the exact center of the cosmos, directly above the magnetic North Pole. This star never moves out of position, and all the other stars move around it in a giant circular pattern within a larger elliptical orbital rotation. As we touched on in the stars chapter previously, star trails prove this fact, and you can predict with high accuracy the stars' placements throughout the year with the use of a Guide to the Stars map, and you can find any constellation with exact timing precision. These stars end up in an annual placement at a specific time of night, which enables us to know what time of year it is. The sun, the moon, and the stars together are synchronized to be constantly rotating in their circuits by the ordinances mandated to them, but at different speeds, similar to a smaller scale clock face that has an hour hand, a minute hand, and a second hand. This is what should be taught in school, not the fake maps and the fake solar system models that are misleading our children. Some people think that the flat earth concept is boring and takes away from God's power, but it is exactly the opposite. This universe is much more awesome to behold and much more interesting and sensible than Satan's misleading globe delusion. If you'd like to see a good working model of how the sun and the moon work in their circuits in real time, you should download the app to your phone, the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. This will help you understand how the luminaries move about us all, and will save you a lot of time in your new quest of luminary perception. Within a week or two, you'll understand what's taking place over your head each day with the sun and the moon. Here's an image here for the app. Right. Ooh, it's hot in here. I've got the air turned off because it's right there and it's so loud, but I'll power through it. Man, it's been hot these days, hasn't it? Okay. So the Sun and Moon app is a valuable tool to monitor where the luminaries are in relationship to your location, as well as to demonstrate how the clock, zodiac, and compass work. All you have to do is go outside, face north with its built-in compass, and look up to see where the luminaries are in relation to your location, and it should match perfectly with the app. You'll also understand where the luminaries are when you can't see them in the sky. There are frequently asked questions linked to videos to help answer other questions that you probably have. This may set you back a couple of dollars, maybe $3, but very well worth your investment in understanding our new world. Download this now and start checking it a couple times a day. Once it proves its accuracy to you, start sharing it with other open-minded people as well. Now that we understand the Earth is a fixed, non-rotating plane with a firmament above and many layers of Earth below, we can start to understand that everything in our realm works from electricity and magnetism. There is no gravity anywhere to be measured or found, nor can its existence be proved in any experiment. Density and buoyancy account for our weight and most everything that we can test and observe. This enclosed system is pressurized by the constant supply of fresh air, adding needed humidity and moisture by the swirling winds within this pressurized system. We get our seasonal changes and light cycles based on the luminary circuits being traveled, and how far they are from us dictates our photoperiod and temperature variations on the ground. We know that the stars that rotate over us are electric in some way, having unique frequencies, and that there are no terra firma planets flying around in the sky, just spectacular lights on display up there. Outer space doesn't exist as we were taught and was designed to conceal everything from us that's real, and there is only inner space up to the inside of the dome. Potential dome, right? The ancients built many of their structures on naturally occurring magnetic fields and ley lines, even corresponding to the electrically charged frequency-based constellations above. Many of the ancient megaliths were also constructed in prominent locations that were ideal for viewing astronomical events like summer or winter solstices, equinoxes, and even cycles of the moon. Some of these monuments would allow the sun's rays to pass through a small chamber only once or twice per year in order to observe and celebrate seasonal changes with complete accuracy. One of the ziggurat pyramids in Mexico, built by the Mayans, is called Chichen Itza and was designed to produce an undulating serpent shadow crawling down from its top right before the sun sets on the day of the spring equinox. This is amazing. What if these structures were built just a little off, but they still perform with exact precision to this very day? There is an ancient temple in India known as Konark Sun Temple that appears as a giant carved stone chariot with wheels and pulling horses. This building is an architectural wonder regarding its iconographies and detailed sculptural stone carvings that is said to be about 750 years old, but critics believe it to be much older. The most fascinating aspect of this temple is its 24 carved wheels at its base, 10 feet in diameter, that feature very accurate sundials. You can calculate the exact time of every day to the minute just by the sun's shadow appearing to this very day. When the sun passes over the temple, the sun reflects on the other side of the building's sundial wheel for an afternoon time reading. But that's only 2 of the 24 wheels. No one has actually figured out what the other wheels represent. Speculators believe some wheels likely correspond with moon shadows for evening timekeeping, but these other wheels remain a mystery to us today. There are many things that prove that the sun moves over the earth in perfect precision, and this is one of them. Look up a short video if interested in seeing this further. And we got a couple images here. The first one is the Konark Sun Temple, and the second one is as well. So we'll just throw these up real quick. Sorry, this is kind of hard. Okay. There we go. Pretty amazing, right? Okay. Okay, so there are countless ancient structures that prove the reliability and precision of the heavenly luminaries, and their builders understood exactly what they were doing when they built them. what is really left for us to discuss within our introductory venture into the workings of the cosmos? Maybe we should look into Nikola Tesla for some advice. Quote, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Nikola Tesla, end quote. Hush, Lily. You're going to go out in a minute. Oh, my goodness. Hey, can you get this dog, please?
Of course.
She's over here whining in my face.
Sure.
Thanks.
Where she went.
I already walked her this morning. Okay. So, Nikola Tesla passed away on January 7th, 1943. It could be argued that he was perhaps the greatest modern inventor by far. For even today, we still use about 80% of the technology that Tesla developed. He understood that there was an ether above the earth that provided energy through electrical frequencies and vibrations, and that our universe has strong electromagnetic fields. Tesla invented the Tesla coil, which was an induction coil transformer circuit that could produce high frequency alternating currents. If you're familiar with like a plasma ball, this is what this author pictures of the Tesla coil radiating up into the firmament. The plasma ball is the round glass object with gas inside that emits a branching electrical charge from the electrode to the center, from the electrode in the center. As you move your hand or finger around it, the electrical current follows you. It is this author's belief that the ancients, thousands of years ago, had better technology than we do in many cases. I believe that they had wireless use of electricity during ancient times, and even though the use of this is very recent for us, Tesla had this figured out in the late 1800s. He could power up a light bulb in his fist or by simply screwing it directly into the ground with no wires. Tesla was building a giant Tesla coil tower at the turn of the century in Shoreham, New York, to prove things could be electrified wirelessly. When his financier, J.P. Morgan, understood exactly what he was doing, he had Tesla cut off from funding, thereby shutting down his project and further withholding this truth from the public. Morgan knew free energy would rob the bankers of their control and eliminate profits from the gold mine of revenue streams derived from selling electricity to the public, electricity that could be metered and charged for its use. Tesla knew that our earthly realm constantly resonates energy through vibration and sound, or like cymatics or harmonic resonance. Light, plasma, frequencies, and electromagnetism abound. What if the cosmos was a giant, intricate clock with self-producing energy fields that are powered via electromagnetism derived from the electrical fields given from the firmament, with the sun as acting as the positive charge and the moon give off the negative charge, this battery of the earth being its vast saline saltwater oceans, and its ground is literally the ground. Then add the magnetic North Pole in the center of it all, combined with the outer ring magnet of the southern perimeter. Could these terrestrial fields better explain common electrical theory like lightning storm systems, ball lightning phenomena, wavelengths, and static electricity, among other things, within the electromagnetic spectrum? So another quote from Tesla here. Quote, the day science begins to study non-physical phenomenon, it'll make more progress in 1 decade than in all the previous centuries of its existence. End quote, Nikola Tesla. But there are many mysteries within the Earth realm that cannot be explained. I think this is what Tesla was referencing with the quote, with the progress that could be made by studying non-physical phenomenon. As much as we can now understand within our cosmos, there is so much more that we may never understand. In the desert of Death Valley, California, there is a mysterious geological phenomenon known as the sailing stones. Would you mind cutting that air on? I'm sweating here. Thanks. The sailing stones. If you guys could let me know in the chat if this air is like super bothersome, you may not even hear it, but if you can, just throw a couple of comments in there and I'll see it and turn it off. I'm just sweating here. Okay. So the sailing stones, these are large stones and boulders that move across the desert valley floor all by themselves. Acting as a type of plow or bulldozer, they move forward across the ground, pushing the substrate to the sides as a plow would, and carve a track up to an inch deep while moving hundreds of feet at times through the year. These stones can stop and even change directions, go back in the direction they first came from, or even just disappear altogether, never to be seen again. After over 100 years of researching this strange occurrence, they're now postulating theories as they have solved the mystery. The only problem is their theory does not address all the notable things that have been observed through all these years. In short, they believe the rocks are moving when ice develops under the rocks during the winter and then moved across the desert floor by the wind. And here's a picture of one of those sailing stones. Right. Okay, by the wind. First off, why would this not be observed anywhere else in the world, right? Secondly, how would the rocks plow through the frozen substrate if they're moving across the ice on top? Thirdly, when have we ever observed large boulders moved by high winds while being frozen in place? Maybe they should heed Tesla's advice and start looking at the supernatural components of what we cannot see within the earth. Another quote from Tesla here, quote, "The history of science shows that theories are perishable. With every new truth that is revealed, we get a better understanding of nature and our conceptions and views are modified." End quote, Nikola Tesla. The number of mysterious phenomenon that remain unsolved by unexplainable things that take place or have taken place all over the earth is incalculable. All science can do is ignore these things or offer theories that are often designed to deter us from what is more likely actually taking place. Consider things like crop circles that happen all over the earth, leaving behind levels of radiation, the hundreds of geoglyph Nazca lines in Peru, many different forms of strange lights observed moving through the sky, how cities have been carved from mountains found in Turkey, Jordan, and India, among other areas, to things like the Costa Rica stone spheres that we mentioned in the introduction, along with the giant Moai statues standing all over the Easter Island. We don't have any good answers for these things scientifically, and it is quite possible that Tesla was alluding to the supernatural unknowns of these non-physical phenomena. We've found single stones used in buildings carved out of the ground in Baalbek, Lebanon, weighing 1,600 plus tons. That's 3.3 million pounds, that we still have no idea how they were cut out of the ground or how they were moved and lifted into position. In fact, the strongest telescoping mobile crane built today can only pick up 1,000 tons and only move that load 8 feet before tipping over. We cannot fully account for the exact purpose or time of construction of the pyramids of Giza in Egypt, which were definitely not burial chambers as we're told. It's more likely that they had to do with dispersing energy or even harnessing some spiritual powers from the underworld in an attempt to resurrect dead spirits back into this realm. I could list hundreds of things that we can only theorize on the original purpose or reason of mysterious and very strange things that we cannot fully resolve today. Are these things possibly tied to the hard to understand spiritual powers that interact within our realm? Little tongue twister there, sorry. There are many things that we may never fully understand with mysterious phenomenon in the earth, including many things done by the ancients, But when it comes to our confusion in the cosmos, we can now understand that the universe was intelligently designed, with the cosmos being constructed into a perfect clock for everyone to see. Our realm is time, in a sense. Beyond our realm, time may not exist, at least in the same way that it does here. This is why 1,000 years is like a day to God, who exists outside of time, and why everything in this realm is mortal and perishable. The very existence of time means that at some point, as we know it, time will run out. Means that at some point, time as we know it will run out, and the clock will someday stop, perhaps. We will conclude this concept in part 7. Another quote from Tesla here. The gift of mental power comes from the divine, God, the divine being, and if we concentrate our minds on that truth, we become in tune with this great power. My mother taught me to seek all truth in the Bible. End quote, Nikola Tesla. Okay, and several pages of maps here. All right. Oh, and one more map, and that is the end of section 12. Righto. So, in keeping with the format of the previous sections of this, I'm going to end this here, and I'm definitely going to be putting up some more chapters soon. So, thanks so much, you guys, for hanging out. Again, when I get wrapped up with recording all of this book, I'm going to try to go back in and edit it into a contiguous playlist with less hiccups. It's just so much less time consuming to do these live. Thanks, Rosie. You know, I mean, I could do the book where I do it through a normal video process where I record everything, then edit it, then render it, and then upload it, which is just very time consuming. And my computer's kind of a piece. It's a decent computer, but it automatically updated itself to Windows 10 or 11 or whatever it is. And so it's just, 4 gigabytes of RAM on Windows 11 is just, Windows 11 is just crawling. So that's it's very tedious to do video editing and rendering with it. But I mean, clearly I can still do it, but a 500-page book or whatever this is for the audiobook, it's just not feasible. So hopefully you can forgive me for the hiccups, but I will hope to have a more polished, finished product once I get everything recorded. So thanks, guys. God bless you. Much love, and I will see you very soon. All right, take it easy.